In the world of WWE, where bright lights shine and legends are celebrated, many giants once stepped into the ring with hopes of becoming icons. They carried massive physiques, incredible strength, and instantly drew attention from the crowd the moment they appeared. Yet, not all of them managed to hold on to that spotlight forever. Some names slowly faded away, forgotten after struggling to secure their place. Today, we'll take a look back at those giants. Men who once sparked worldwide curiosity but ultimately disappeared in silence. Let's get started. Wrestling Sphere, go! 1. Mason Ryan. Unlike many other giants who spent years hidden away in the developmental system, Mason Ryan was thrown straight onto weekly television. And when the spotlight is always on you, it becomes impossible to hide the fact that you're not fully prepared for the role you've been given. Of course, the blame didn't rest entirely on Barry Griffiths, Ryan's real name. With a look that almost mirrored a Welsh version of Dave Bautista, it was easy to see why Vince McMahon was instantly drawn to him and wanted to mold him into a top star from the moment he first laid eyes on him in 2009. Ryan quickly signed a developmental deal and was sent to Florida Championship Wrestling to sharpen his craft and adjust to WWE's style. There, he showcased real promise, especially after capturing the FCW Florida Heavyweight Championship in July 2010 by defeating Alex Riley and Johnny Curtis in a triple threat match. He went on to hold the title for over half a year, defending it successfully against notable names like Bo Dallas, Richie Steamboat, and Eli Cottonwood, proving that he had more to offer than just an impressive physique. By January 2011, McMahon believed Ryan was ready for the big stage. He was called up to Raw and placed into Nexus, a faction that had once been hot but by then had lost its momentum. Instead of boosting his career, the association buried him further. Fans showed little interest in his appearances, and the constant comparison to another Batista only made it harder for him to win genuine support. Still, his time in Nexus wasn't without value. Ryan got the chance to share the ring with top names like Randy Orton, Kane, and Big Show, while also learning under the leadership of CM Punk, who headed the group at the time. Yet, even those opportunities couldn't cover up his lack of experience. His performances steadily declined week after week, and once Nexus finally dissolved, so did Mason Ryan's momentum in WWE. The company sent him back to NXT in 2012, where he strung together several wins in an attempt to rebuild his credibility. However, even those efforts weren't enough to elevate him to star status. By April 2014, WWE decided to part ways with him, bringing a short but bittersweet chapter to an end for the towering powerhouse from Wales. 2. Mark Jindrak. Among the towering figures once expected to become major WWE stars but ultimately faded into obscurity, Mark Jindrak stands out as a notable example. At one point, management even trusted him enough to nearly make him part of the legendary faction Evolution, the powerhouse group featuring Triple H, Ric Flair, and Randy Orton. Before arriving in WWE, Jindrak competed in World Championship Wrestling during the late 1990s. As WCW declined, he was still seen as a promising young talent with an impressive physique and solid in-ring skills. In 2001, after Vince McMahon purchased WCW, Jindrak signed with WWE, carrying hopes of building a brighter future on a bigger stage. Early on, he often teamed with Garrison Cade, but for the most part he lingered in developmental territories, occasionally appearing on secondary shows like Heat or Jacked. The turning point seemed to come in 2003, when WWE pushed him to the main roster with the plan of adding him to Evolution. The company even filmed promotional material featuring all 4 members, preparing for a grand debut. However, before those segments could air, Jindrak was suddenly pulled from the group. The reason was his lack of chemistry with Triple H, Ric Flair, and Randy Orton. Management eventually chose Batista instead, a decision that completely reshaped WWE history. While Batista rose to become a top superstar, Jindrak lost what would have been the golden opportunity of his career. From that moment, his trajectory grew dimmer. He reunited with Garrison Cade, but their partnership achieved little. Attempts at a singles run or pairing with other partners never gained traction either. In 2005, Jindrak quietly departed WWE, ending a short but frustrating chapter filled with missed chances. After leaving the company, he moved to Mexico, working for major promotions like AAA and CMLL. There, he found greater acceptance and carved out a steadier career, even if he never reached the same level of stardom he once sought in the United States. Jindrak proved he had the tools to succeed, But in WWE's cutthroat environment, timing and opportunity simply never aligned in his favor. 3. Omos. In recent years, as WWE searched for new names to carry on the legacy of its legendary giants, Omos was once seen as a major hope. Standing well over 7 feet tall with a massive frame that towered over every opponent, he entered the spotlight like a moving mountain. From the moment he appeared, Omos left a strong impression with his intimidating look and unique presence, qualities WWE had long sought in its larger-than-life characters. At first, Omos was introduced as the bodyguard for AJ Styles, one of the most skilled technical wrestlers of the modern era. Their pairing created an intriguing dynamic. AJ brought speed and precision, while Omos embodied raw, unstoppable power. That partnership eventually pushed Omos from ringside into bigger matches, culminating in the duo capturing the tag team championships. It was clear WWE intended to shape him into a standout figure among its roster of giants. However, once separated from AJ Styles, Omos' limitations quickly surfaced. His imposing size couldn't hide the lack of agility and in-ring polish. His singles matches often felt slow, predictable, and failed to keep the audience invested for long. Even though WWE tried to present him as an unbeatable monster, fans were never fully convinced. His sheer size, while intimidating, sometimes became a double-edged sword, making him look menacing but not necessarily compelling as a top star. Despite being positioned against marquee names like Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, his career never truly gained momentum. Omos would appear sporadically, disappear from major storylines, and then resurface without leaving much of an impact. Over time, he began to be viewed less as a future headliner and more as a standby giant, used mainly to make other wrestlers look stronger rather than being the centerpiece himself. Ultimately, Omos serves as proof that while an extraordinary physique can open doors, without skill, character depth, and the ability to tell a story inside the ring, even the biggest giant can fade into obscurity. WWE once invested high hopes in him, but today Omos stands as a clear example of untapped potential that the company never fully capitalized on. 4. Luther Reigns. Among the many giants who once stepped into WWE only to vanish just as quickly, Luther Reigns is a name rarely mentioned, but one that carries a sense of regret. Joining the company in 2003, he immediately stood out with his massive build, intimidating look, and commanding presence. Many believed he had the potential to break into the main event scene. Yet, his career took the opposite path, fading away after only a short time. From the very beginning, Luther was given a prime spot by aligning with Kurt Angle, one of WWE's top stars at the time. This was a golden opportunity for a newcomer to showcase his abilities and make an instant impact. However, after just a handful of matches, fans realized Luther lacked the agility and in-ring skills needed to deliver compelling performances. His imposing physique was his only true asset, while he failed to develop a distinct character or connect emotionally with the audience. Even so, WWE wasn't quick to abandon him. The company experimented by pairing Luther with Mark Jindrak, sometimes as allies and other times as rivals. Although their storyline provided a few entertaining moments, it wasn't enough to elevate Luther's status. His biggest chance came when he was placed in a feud with The Undertaker. Sharing the ring with a dead man was proof that management still wanted to push him. Unfortunately, Luther couldn't capitalize on it. The rivalry ended with his loss to the legendary icon, and with it, whatever hope remained for his rise faded away. Crowds hardly reacted to Luther Reigns. Each time he appeared, the response was little more than silence, the worst outcome for any performer. Without a connection to the fans, his role quickly diminished, relegating him to secondary shows like Velocity. It was a clear sign his WWE career was nearing its end. Things unraveled further when he clashed with Paul Heyman, the head writer for SmackDown at the time. Unable to find a direction for his character, Luther chose to leave the company and announced his retirement shortly after. Luther Reigns serves as proof that sheer size alone is never enough. He was given opportunities to rise, but lacking skill, charisma, and the ability to win over the crowd, he ultimately joined the long list of forgotten giants in WWE history. 5. Tyson Tomko. In 2002, as the Attitude Era came to a close and WWE entered a new phase, Vince McMahon continued searching for a fresh giant who could become the company's next cornerstone. That search led him to Tyson Tomko, a towering figure from Florida. With an imposing physique and a cold, intimidating demeanor, Tomko was quickly signed and sent to Ohio Valley Wrestling to refine his craft. Just a year later, WWE promoted him to the main roster, marking a major turning point in his career. On screen, Tomko was introduced as the hired muscle for Christian, who at the time had aligned with Trish Stratus in a feud against Chris Jericho. Playing the role of a silent but destructive enforcer, Tomko was the perfect addition to the storyline. Fans quickly remembered him as the problem solver, the man who always showed up at the right moment to protect Christian and Trish or flatten any opponent standing in their way. This role not only helped establish his identity but also proved his value to the audience. Recognizing potential, WWE separated Tomko from Christian during the 2005 draft, keeping him on Raw to begin a singles run. Ideally, this was supposed to launch him as a dominant heel who could instill fear across the babyface roster. Unfortunately, reality didn't match expectations. Despite his size and power, Tomko lacked the charisma needed to rise to main event status. Fans struggled to connect with him, and he quickly settled into the mid-card instead of climbing higher. Attempts to rejuvenate his career, such as teaming with Gene Snitsky later in 2005, failed to gain traction. Within months, WWE chose to release him, leaving behind disappointment for those who once believed in his potential. Yet Tomko didn't disappear completely. After leaving WWE, he found opportunities in New Japan Pro Wrestling and TNA, even reuniting with Christian once more. Though he never became the superstar WWE envisioned, Tyson Tomko remains remembered as a true problem solver, a forgotten giant whose presence left an impression, even if his run at the top never materialized. 6. Matt Morgan. Matt Morgan was once introduced by WWE as a giant full of potential, with an imposing physique, chiseled muscles, and a look that resembled an action movie star brought to life. Standing tall with a rare agility for someone his size, Morgan was initially viewed as a possible flag-bearer for WWE's next generation of big men. The company even hinted multiple times that he had all the tools to become a superstar: strength, build, and presence. Yet, his WWE journey never came close to those expectations. From his early appearances on SmackDown, Morgan drew attention with steady performances and visible confidence in the ring. However, instead of establishing him as a true powerhouse, WWE repeatedly shifted his character direction, leaving fans confused and disconnected. At one point, he was pushed as a destructive force, only to be demoted soon after to secondary matches, even saddled with a comedic, stuttering gimmick, an idea that stripped away the intimidation factor he naturally carried. This lack of consistency blurred his image and prevented him from breaking out the way many had hoped. What makes his case more disappointing is that Morgan genuinely possessed qualities that set him apart from other giants of his era. He wasn't just about size. He had stamina and surprising mobility for a man of his stature. Many fans believed that, if given the right opportunity, Morgan could have become a credible challenger to top stars. But instead of investing long-term, WWE relegated him to a supporting role, using his towering frame more as a placeholder than as a future headliner. By the time his contract expired, it was clear WWE had squandered the chance to mold him into a true giant. With no defining moments and no strong storylines to solidify his presence, Morgan's departure left fans with a lingering sense of regret. His name ultimately stands as proof that in WWE, having an extraordinary physique is never enough. Without vision and proper booking, even a highly promising giant can fade into obscurity. 7. Vance Archer. Of course, not every giant who fails in WWE disappears from the wrestling world. Vance Archer is perhaps the clearest example. For him, his stint in WWE was only the beginning of a much longer journey, not the end of the road. Before fans came to know him as the menacing Murderhawk monster, Archer was a hungry young talent striving to make an impact in the late 2000s, after building some recognition in TNA. By 2009, he officially signed with WWE. With his tall frame and hard-hitting style, Archer quickly caught the attention of Vince McMahon, who placed him in the revived version of ECW, a brand that had once produced many major stars. Right away, Archer built momentum with an undefeated streak, taking down established veterans like Tommy Dreamer and Goldust. At that point, the image of a rising monster seemed like it would open big doors for his future. However, things shifted when Archer crossed paths with Shelton Benjamin. Armed with superior technique, speed, and ring control, Benjamin ended Archer's streak and halted his rise. After that loss, the aura of an unstoppable force began to fade. WWE soon moved him to SmackDown, pairing him with Curt Hawkins under the name The Gatecrashers. The duo created some memorable moments and stacked up a few wins to stay relevant, but internal issues caused the team to split before they had the chance to compete for championships. Without steady momentum, Archer's WWE outlook grew dim. By November 2010, he was officially released. Yet this wasn't the end, it was a turning point. Reinventing himself as Lance Archer, he left the US and headed to Japan, joining New Japan Pro Wrestling. There, he adapted quickly and established himself as a key member of Minoru Suzuki's faction, Suzuki Gun. His career didn't stop there. Archer continued to expand his presence, and in 2020, he signed a long-term deal with All Elite Wrestling. After years of ups and downs, Lance Archer proved that being forgotten in WWE isn't necessarily a final chapter. It can be the spark that launches an even greater legacy elsewhere. 8. Bam Neely. Among the many giants who couldn't last in WWE, Bam Neely might be the most forgettable name. He entered the ECW roster in 2008 as the muscle-bound bodyguard of Chavo Guerrero, who at the time held the brand's world championship. With his large frame and tough look, Neely was expected to add intimidation to Chavo's presence, serving as a steel shield beside the champion. His role often placed him in the ring alongside established stars, especially in tag team matches. This gave him the chance to share the spotlight and learn from Chavo, one of WWE's most technically gifted and experienced performers. Yet, fans quickly noticed that Neely failed to leave any impression of his own. Even while standing next to a main event talent, he came across as little more than a background figure, visible on screen, but never truly memorable. By October 2008, his alliance with Chavo came to an end. That moment should have been Neely's opportunity to prove himself as a singles competitor. Instead, everything stalled. Management had already lost confidence in his potential. He lacked the technical skills to impress and didn't have the charisma needed to connect with the audience. While his size gave him a striking look, that alone was not enough. In WWE's fiercely competitive environment, where performers must balance both showmanship and in-ring ability, Neely came up short in both. Just 3 months after splitting from Chavo, in January 2009, Vince McMahon made the final call to release him from his contract. Compared to other forgotten giants, at least Neely briefly appeared on the main roster during the ECW era. Still, that short run wasn't nearly enough to secure him a place in WWE history. For Bam Neely, all that remains is the faint memory of a silent bodyguard who quickly disappeared from the spotlight. 9. Mike Knox. Among WWE's long list of forgotten giants, Mike Knox is a name that leaves fans with a sense of regret. Standing 6 feet 7 inches and weighing over 285 pounds, Michael Hatinga, the man behind the character, seemed to have all the tools to become the kind of monster Vince McMahon always favored. After spending time competing on the independent circuit, he signed with WWE in 2005, trained, and eventually debuted for the reborn ECW brand in 2006. From the moment he appeared, Knox struggled to win over the crowd. ECW's loyal fanbase already disliked anything tied to WWE, and he was quickly dismissed as an outsider. Standing alongside names like CM Punk and Rob Van Dam, Knox faded into the background. His feud with Punk, which should have been a breakout opportunity, backfired. Fans felt Punk deserved bigger opponents, while Knox looked like nothing more than a temporary obstacle. The rivalry was rooted in an on-screen angle with Kelly Kelly, who played Knox's girlfriend. She frequently appeared in the seductive extreme expose dance segments, but Knox's character would storm in to shut them down, earning even more boos from the audience. As Kelly began aligning with CM Punk, their storyline turned into a love triangle that spilled into the ring. Instead of elevating Knox, however, it only led to him losing match after match to Punk, pushing him further into obscurity. His biggest spotlight came at Survivor Series 2006, when Knox competed as part of Team RKO against Team DX. But the night ended in humiliation. Shawn Michaels eliminated him within seconds with a superkick, then mocked him by joking that he didn't even know who Knox was. That moment made him the butt of a joke and marked a steep downturn in his WWE run. Afterward, Knox returned to ECW before being moved to Raw in 2008 and later SmackDown. Yet wherever he went, the story was the same: a character with no clear direction, limited development, and little fan connection. By 2010, WWE officially released him, closing the chapter on a career that once carried promise but ultimately never delivered. 10. Kurgan. From his very first steps into the WWF, Kurgan was expected to become a giant who could bring something different to the company. In fact, he had a dark match back in 1991, but it wasn't until 1997 that he finally debuted on television. At that time, Kurgan was introduced as the newest member of the Truth Commission under the leadership of the Jackal. With his massive size, he was quickly built up as the group's destructive force, often crushing babyfaces that crossed their path. His finishing move, the Iron Claw, was heavily promoted, portraying him as a terrifying monster in the eyes of opponents. However, problems arose from his own limitations in the ring. Fans struggled to connect with a performer who was stiff, slow, and relied almost entirely on size to look intimidating. The lukewarm reaction from the crowd soon put Kurgan in a difficult position. Within a year, WWE decided to repackage him, a common route for giants who failed to capture lasting attention, transforming him into more of an entertainment act. As a result, Kurgan became one of the founding members of the Oddities, the bizarre faction best known for outlandish entrances, dancing in the ring, and generating laughs rather than fear. This marked a huge shift in his career. Once promoted as a monster designed to instill terror, Kurgan was now remembered for his eccentric mannerisms and oddball allies. While this change kept him from fading away immediately, it also sealed off any chance of becoming a top star. No longer viewed as a serious threat, he was boxed into the role of a dancing giant, and before long, Kurgan disappeared from WWE altogether, leaving behind an incomplete legacy. In the end, Kurgan stands as a clear example of WWE's harsh reality. Sheer size is never enough. Without a strong character and the ability to connect with fans, even the biggest giants can quickly be forgotten. 11. Giant Silva. When talking about Giant Silva, it's impossible not to see him as a textbook example of WWE failing to capitalize on a giant's physical presence. His towering height left people stunned at first sight, yet his WWE career produced virtually no lasting impact. Instead of being presented as a terrifying force in the ring, the kind of role that could have positioned him as the next Andre the Giant, Silva was immediately placed in a completely different direction. From his debut, he was slotted into the Oddities, a faction that leaned heavily on comedy and spectacle rather than serious competition. The biggest issue was Silva's mobility. With his massive size, he struggled to move fluidly or execute clean sequences like other wrestlers. Even maintaining a steady pace in a standard match proved difficult. Because of this, WWE could only use him as a giant mascot, mostly standing at ringside to enhance the Oddities' uniqueness. When he did step into the ring, it was almost always in multi-man matches, designed to hide his weaknesses and minimize the fact that he couldn't carry a bout on his own. This kind of presentation made Silva feel like an awkward fit. Fans remembered his size, but few could recall any standout singles match of his. His appearances were little more than novelty acts, never delivering the sense of real danger expected from someone of his stature. Once WWE realized there was no sustainable path forward, the company released him in 1999, a move that felt inevitable. Looking back, Giant Silva stands as clear proof that sheer size alone isn't enough to make a star. While some giants learn to use their bodies to leave a mark, Silva remained stuck in a background role, forgettable, underutilized, and quickly gone from WWE's spotlight. For that reason, he's often remembered as one of the company's biggest missteps when it comes to its long line of forgotten giants. And that wraps up the story of the giants who once seemed full of promise but ended up forgotten in WWE's history. If you found this video engaging, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next videos from Wrestling Sphere.